G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Let's go. Am I the a-hole for admitting to my son that I never wanted to have a child? So, I saw a post here that reminded me of my situation, and it made me think to post. I have a 15-year-old son, Jacob. When I was 18, I married a classmate that I was dating. We were stupid teenagers, and I got pregnant. He really wanted to have a kid, so I was pressured into having Jacob, even though I hated being pregnant and taking care of him. Our family was so disappointed that they demanded that we give the baby up to somebody so that we can focus on our education. We didn't, and Jacob was about 6 months old when his dad died in a motorcycle crash. About a year after, I gave Jacob up to my great aunt. She legally adopted him, and my life got so much better. I finished up my education, and by the time I was 26, I became the manager at a club. When Jacob was 11, my great-aunt got diagnosed with an illness, and it was determined that she could no longer care for him. So, as per her wishes, I took Jacob back and began working nights so that I could care for him, even though I hate working nights. I have changed my entire schedule to accommodate for him. I never wanted to take somebody to basketball practice, drop off and pick up a bunch of kids in a carpool, or have noisy Xbox games played throughout my apartment. But I do now, and I have sacrificed my entire existence for him. And here's the kicker. I actually started to enjoy it because Jacob was so great, and up until a year ago, I was even thinking that this was a nice way to live. And then something changed. He got rude. Starts throwing his backpack when he comes home, will throw away the lunch that I make him, will swear, and he won't even hug me anymore. We had an argument yesterday because he started watching WWE real loud instead of doing his chores, and that woke me up way too early, and I got very upset when he said that I wanted to give him away because I don't. I admitted that I never wanted to have him, but he's not some toy that I can just toss away. But instead of thinking about what I said, he just started crying really badly, and this morning he wouldn't even get out of bed and go to school. He just won't stop hugging me and crying. I've called in sick for work tonight, but I'm just wondering if I was wrong to handle it how I did. One of my friends said that she would have divorced her husband if he said that to her son. Yeah, for me personally, this sounds really abusive. I don't understand why you said this to him. That's not nice. That's a really bad thing to say to someone. It's abusive. I don't see any way that that isn't abusive towards your own son. Son exhibits behaviors that teenagers normally exhibit, and you say, you know what? I never wanted you. I wish you never existed, but now that I have you, I can't get rid of you. Ouch. That would really make me feel wanted if I was the son in this position. I don't blame him for hugging you and crying you all the time, but I'm surprised that he's actually hugging you. I'm surprised he's not turned off by the mere sight of you currently. I'm going with definitely you're the a-hole for this one. Now in the comments, you're the a-hole. You never ever tell your kid that you never wanted them. Your son will not ever forget this. He was already abandoned by you once. Now he knows that he is one normal teenage tantrum away from you shoving him out on the streets. He was hugging you and crying because he thinks that if he doesn't, you'll just throw him away like trash. Don't expect him to stick around much longer after he turns 18. And edit to everyone replying with how old they were when their parents said this to them. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. No child does. I can only wish the best for you and hope that you don't have to be in any more relationships where the other parties treat you as forced burdens. All of this times a million. I wish I could grab that boy and pour all of the love that he's been missing into him. Same. Halfway through reading this, I was like, I'm gonna comment and tell OP that she better effing let me adopt this kid and I'll take care of him. I never even wanted kids, but I know for a fact that I would take great care of him just like I take amazing care of my boyfriend's kids. This is insane that she would treat her kid this way and blame him when these are all consequences of her own actions. Not to mention he lost his dad and his aunt, who was like a mother figure to him. Opie, you are heartless for this, and I hope this was a huge wake-up call for you. Never do this to your son again, please get him therapy, and you should also take family therapy together. Damn, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You said something life-changingly hurtful to a child. I was just talking to a 50-year-old today who was bawling her eyes out, recalling being told those very words by her own mother when she was 15. Your son will never forget what you said. Now go get him a good therapist and get yourself one too, and try to undo the damage that you've done. I'm in my 40s. My mom yelled at me that she should have let my grandparents on a different continent adopt me when they offered. I was about 8, maybe 7 years old. I hadn't cleaned up my toys to her liking. I remember that like it was yesterday. It still hurts. I dated a girl that got into a heated argument one night, and her mum said that she always wished she had a son. Not, I didn't want a kid level of screwed up, but close enough. It screwed her up pretty bad for a long time. And now, on to the update. The stuff you were saying about me and about losing my custody of my son is not funny. I can accept where I went wrong. I made a simple mistake while attempting to do something good. I love my son, and I am not who I am as a teenager. I am not somebody who would give him away. I want him to stay with me. One thing that I didn't put in my post was that I'm planning on moving us to an apartment closer to our city's top university because I know that a boy as smart as him will be able to go there. My son is a wonderful child, and I love him. As for everyone asking me whether or not I apologized, of course I apologized. What I said made my son cry so bad he wouldn't stop hugging me and wouldn't go to school. I'm not made of stone, and I'm not an abuser, even though that's what so many of you tried to paint me as. For the people who did offer helpful suggestions because you are good people, instead of those trying to get some kind of moral high ground because you live online and contribute nothing to the world, I thank you all so much. I had a conversation with my son yesterday when I got him to come out for dinner about things. I made it clear to him that I did not envision the last 4 years of my life, but they have been the greatest. To have him call me mum and hear him talk and have fun and get to give him hugs and kisses and make him food makes my life amazing. That's why even though he's been so different this last year, I am never sending him away. I explained that what I meant by the toy simile was that I didn't want him to think that I saw him like that because I'm not who I was when I gave birth to him. I'm not the stupid teenager who let him be adopted by a rich aunt. We both hugged, and he forgave me and told me that he knows that I love him, but what I said made him scared. We did then talk about what's been going on the last year, and I don't feel like I can write it here, at least not now, but he was finally honest with me. He cried in my arms, and I understand now that bad things were on the cusp of happening, but now they won't. Because of what was going on, I have made it clear to him that we will explore options for getting professional help, but it doesn't mean what my great aunt told him it means. So to sum it up, thank you and don't be malicious. In the comments, honestly, OP did better by giving him to his aunt. Growing up with a mother in a similar situation as OP, she would have grown to resent him and he would have known. Goodness knows that it made me very combative and suicidal as a teenager. That said, those words are gonna stay with him and they both need family therapy. Maybe going with her rather than alone will reassure him of his safety. Though after this, it's hard to tell. I really hope that kid has a support system outside of his mum, or his issues will have issues. I agree, OP made a pretty selfless decision that can't have been easy when she was so young, barely grown. She was clumsy in expressing her feelings to her son later on, but not out of malice. I understand what she was saying, but I also understand how that could have hurt her son badly. I hope they can both heal from this. TBH, most of the time what makes you a butthole isn't the mistake, it's how you handle the ripples that come from it. OP meant well, but she hurt her son. She didn't want that, didn't mean it, and wanted to fix it. That's the exact opposite of a butthole. My mum was 19 when she had my brother, and 35 when she had me. We had two very different childhoods. She always wanted to be a parent, so giving us up would have been her very last resort, but I don't doubt that she would have done it if it meant that we would be safer that way. It is an indescribably painful thing to realize. You can't raise your own child the way you want to. It's emotionally difficult, but also the circumstances have to be so bad for it to get there. Being an actively suicidal teen widow is definitely one of those circumstances. Almost exactly my situation. I was 16 when my little sister was born, and while sometimes I find myself bitter watching her get the childhood that I didn't, never at her, more in general, I'm really grateful that I get to give my mum real-time advice about what screwed me up, and it's cathartic watching her grow into a better parent for my little tuna fish. She pierced my ears when I was less than a year old, and I was so resentful of it until I was like 12 to 14, when I finally came around to liking them and convinced my mum to let Tuna decide for herself. No more spankings, excessive yelling, yada yada, but she still needs to lay off the spoiling with toys. Our next post is titled, Am I the a-hole for prioritizing my son's dog over my wife's pregnancy? When my son, 14, was 8, we got a dog. He's half Great Dane and half some dog my friend's dog met during an unauthorized absence. My son loves this dog and does all the care for him, except vet stuff, and is a very irresponsible dog owner. This dog is pretty much his best friend. My wife is 12 weeks pregnant, and ever since we confirmed the pregnancy, she's been acting weird around the dog. She avoids him, puts her hands over her stomach when he's around, and jolts whenever he makes a noise. Today, she told me that she wants to rehome the dog. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said that she's been having anxiety that he will jump on her. This is completely unreasonable. He doesn't jump on people. We trained him not to jump on people or run into people very young because he is half Great Dane, and I felt that this was important for all dogs, but especially one who could possibly grow to such a large size, which he did. There is no reason for her to think that the dog will jump on her. She said that there is no way to know for sure that the dog won't jump on her, and if he does, our baby could be hurt. This dog has never so much as growled at her. She said even if the dog doesn't jump on her, her anxiety about it is bad for her health. She said she needs the dog elsewhere for her safety and for the babies. I told her that there was no way. My son got this dog right after he lost his mum and imprinted on him hard. Sometimes I think he loves the dog more than me. I am not taking his dog. The dog didn't do anything. My wife said that I'm prioritizing the dog over her pregnancy. The dog isn't a threat to her pregnancy. If this were any other unreasonable request, I would just do it because she's pregnant. I just can't break my son's heart over a fear she has that makes no sense. Am I being a butthole? In the comments, not the a-hole. Has she stopped driving? Has she started using a wheelchair so she doesn't fall? Is she refusing to use stairs? She needs some counseling, genuinely, not being rude, to figure out why she is only fixated on the dog and reacting to sound similar to PTSD symptoms. Did you train the dog not to jump because he pushed her over at some point? Was she pushed by a dog as a child or something? Something got in her head. Or she has always hated the dog and is manipulating you now that she sees her chance to get rid of it. OP replies, We trained the dog when he was a puppy before I even met my wife. Then she has some mental hang-up/trauma, or she's manipulating you. You know her better than us, but those are the likely things based on given info. No, the likely thing based on the information is that she is hyper-anxious due to the pregnancy and is fixating on the dog. They shouldn't rehome the dog, but there should be help for her. Mild anti-anxiety drugs or therapy, even meditation or yoga would help. As a woman who has been pregnant, I agree with this. We naturally become very protective of our bodies and hyper-aware of anything that we may perceive as a threat to our security. I doubt drugs are an option because she's pregnant, but maybe talking to someone or helping her limit time with a dog may help. I would microchip the dog if you haven't already. Make sure info is up to date and see if she will seek counseling and compromise. Your kid needs his dog, not the a-hole. OP, you really need to pay attention to this. Your wife is having irrational anxiety, whether because of hormones, and she needs to talk to her doctor, or because she's always wanted to get rid of the dog and this is her excuse. Only time will tell, but irrational people do crazy stuff, and it would be very, very easy for her to get rid of the dog while you and your son aren't there. Not the a-hole, as long as you watch your wife very carefully to make sure she doesn't harm your son's dog or any other target of her paranoia. Antenatal anxiety is a thing that can happen, and you're right. She needs to talk to a professional for help. I don't think she's reached nefariously get rid of the dog levels yet, but it's better to help her not reach that point in the first place. Not the a-hole. Animals are lifetime responsibilities. Pawning them off because she got pregnant would be a crappy thing to do. I wish more people agreed with this. Yeah, I was sweating coming into the comments. cats and dogs are highly emotionally complex, have a sense of self, complex social and familial structures, form languages with their owners, have some capacity for narrative and episodic memory. They can absolutely conceive of and suffer from family rejection. Rehoming a dog is the last of all possible resorts. And now, on to the update. We read some stuff about pregnant women developing sudden fear and hatred towards pets, and how common this phenomena is. Several people shared their personal stories on my original post, but I couldn't show her those because I didn't tell her about the original post. There were too many people saying mean things on it, but I found similar stories elsewhere online, and she found them reassuring. We've been training the dog on how to be around babies. Well, my son is training him. So far, a former co-worker of mine and a neighbor have let me borrow their babies for an evening, and both times went really well. So we will continue to enforce appropriate baby behavior with the dog. My wife visited her OBGYN to discuss her fear and anxiety, and she again was reassured that many women face similar experiences when pregnant. She's going to start seeing someone to discuss her changing emotional state. She also decided that she wants to spend as little time as possible with the dog for now. So we've all been accommodating that, and the dog is now spending the majority of his indoor time in my son's room instead of in the living room when my wife is home. So far the dog doesn't mind, as he sleeps in there anyway, and that's where his best friend lives. Our home continues to be harmonious. I appreciate all the people who provided productive information and outlooks on the last post. And now in the comments, saw your first post, glad you guys are figuring it out and the doggo stays. Also, lol, a co-worker and a neighbor let you borrow their baby? And OP says, they were really excited about the free babysitting, a level of excitement that, to be honest, made me nervous. I lolled hard at this. I totally understand loving free babysitting, though I would be nervous leaving it with someone that I'm not too close with. I'm sure you probably are. OP says, I just have one of those faces. People feel safe around me. I only use my powers for good. Like, testing with their baby to train your behemoth mutt to be safe around your own later? OP says, we don't just put the baby in front of the dog and peace out. My son holds the baby and puts treats in their hands to give the dog while giving the dog commands. After the dog follows the commands, the baby, actually my son, gives the dog a treat. So the dog learns that babies are humans, authority figures, and need to be treated respectfully, and not puppies or some strange interloper animal that can be played roughly with. The dog also gets used to the sounds that babies make, so he won't find them upsetting or stressful later on. This is so wonderful. It's clear that you're also doing the research into the best way to teach your dog. I'm sure sharing this info about what is being done and why will help your wife in the long run too. Is this what a functional family dynamic looks like? I think I got whiplash from some of the posts that I read earlier today. And that's where I'm going to leave you today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.